Okay, everybody, welcome to part 2 of the Punnett square practice. In this video, we're going to see Punnett squares slightly different, and we're going to add a few more things to help you not make mistakes, and a little more information on genetics. So here we go. Review the vocabulary: genotype and phenotype. Genotype, genetic makeup represented by 2 alleles. Phenotype, the physical trait: tall, short, purple, white. Dominant, what's most likely to occur? Again, if you have the dominant allele, you have the dominant trait. Recessive, what's less likely to occur? Remember, you must have 2 recessive alleles in order to have a recessive trait. Homozygous, prefix homo meaning same. When you have 2 of the same alleles, homozygous, and it must be followed by either dominant or recessive, so you know which 2 alleles to write. Heterozygous, prefix hetero meaning different. So you don't need to follow it with dominant or recessive because you will have the dominant allele and the recessive allele. You know what to write. In this instance, the individual will have the dominant trait because they have the dominant allele, but they will have the ability to pass on the recessive trait to their offspring. Again, they don't have this trait, but they can pass it on. An allele, individually, the letter is an allele. Together, they form a genotype. 2 alleles, 1 from each parent. On to our problem. New problem. In garden pea plants, purple flower color, capital P, is dominant over white flower color, lowercase p. A pea plant that is homozygous recessive for flower color is crossed with one that is heterozygous for flower color. I'd like you to pause the video here, take a second, and see if you can write down the steps that we're going to take to solve this problem. Can you remember them from the last video? To review, draw the Punnett square. Step 2, list the phenotypes. Step 3, list the parents. Step 4, place the parent genotypes around the Punnett square. Top down, sides across. So very important. What is the probability of each genotype? What is the probability of each phenotype? On to step 1. Draw your Punnett square. Remember to leave some space over to the right as we're going to use that. Step 2. What are the possible phenotypes? In this problem, we're talking about flower color, and capital P, dominant, is purple, and lowercase p is white. So the recessive trait is white, the dominant trait is purple. List those at the top to the right of your Punnett square. Phenotypes: big P purple, little p white. Double check, make sure you don't make any mistakes. This has to be correct. Next, we're going to list the parents. Here's our keyword: crossed. So we have homozygous, same, recessive. So that means 2 lowercase alleles. And we have heterozygous, which is dominant allele, recessive allele. So we're going to list our parents below our phenotypes: homozygous, recessive, lowercase, lowercase, and heterozygous. Next, we're going to place the parent genotypes around the Punnett square. So parent 1 is going to go up top, lowercase, lowercase, recessive, recessive. And parent 2 is going to go over to the side, heterozygous, a dominant allele and a recessive allele. Next step, top down, sides across. So very important. Remember, we are going to deal with the top alleles first, bringing them straight down into their boxes, and then the side alleles, bringing them across in their boxes to prevent eye bounce, going back and forth. Another little trick: if you have a recessive allele up top, write it on the right-hand side of the square. Even though it doesn't matter what order these are in, the little p could be first, this still is heterozygous, and the person will still have the dominant trait. It's just nicer on the eyes if the little p goes second, or the recessive allele goes second. So write your recessive alleles, if they're up top, on the right-hand side. So we brought this one down, and we're going to bring this one down. Then we're going to take this allele all the way across, and then we're going to take these alleles, or this allele, all the way across. What is the probability of each genotype? Remember, genotype, we're talking heterozygous, homozygous. the genetic makeup represented by two alleles. Here we have dominant and recessive, which is heterozygous, dominant and recessive, which is heterozygous, recessive, which is homozygous recessive, and recessive, which is homozygous recessive. Don't forget, 1 box 25, 2 box 50, 3 75, and 4 100%. So here we have 1, 2 heterozygous, so that's 50% heterozygous, and we have 1, 2 homozygous, which is 50% homozygous recessive. So we'll write that down on our problem. Give you a second there. Next, what is the probability for each phenotype? Over here, we check our phenotypes. That's why we write it here, so that we don't make mistakes. Capital P is purple, little p, recessive, is white. So here we have the dominant allele, so we are purple. We have the dominant allele, so we are purple. We have 2 recessive alleles, so that means we're white. And again, 2 recessive alleles, so that means we're white. So 1, 2 purple, 50% purple, and 1, 2 white, 50% white. So we write down here 50% purple, 50% white. Now that you have completed your Punnett square, you can try to answer any question that is given to you, whether it's on a test or an assignment. Don't attempt to answer the question until you have done this process. Please don't attempt to answer the question until you have done this process. At the end of every Punnett square problem, before you attack it, your paper should look something like, exactly like this. Here's your homework assignment that I would like you to try. Bring it with you to class tomorrow, and we will check it and do some more practice.